Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. McIntire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning, giving us our direction, guidance, and perspective on our money, helping us to make better, more informed decision with our finance. He is Chris McIntire, president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris, we always appreciate the time and the perspective that you do provide here on the program.
Hey, my pleasure, Peter. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Good to see you as well. And Chris, we are going to talk today about what actually may be the most important thing with our money, and that is providing stability to, and caring for our loved ones. Now, as a guy, I probably feel comfortable living in a tent out in the woods and eating tree bark. And yet still I go to work. We've got that mentality that we could really rough it. We could face anything, but I still strive for financial wellness and stability and to save, mostly to protect those that I love. I think that is the end goal of a lot of the savings that I try to strive for.
Yeah, no question about it, Peter. And, we all want to take care of our spouses, for those of us that are married. And I think that goes both ways, husbands and wives. And I make the comment a lot, Peter, that, hey, I can live in a refrigerator box. I just need my garage to have fun in, so to speak. And but you're absolutely right. If we deal with a sudden loss of a spouse, or, even sometimes even worse, be getting placed in a nursing home, can certainly have a dramatic impact on your nest egg.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be talking about all of the aspects of our money, our finances, and what we do to strive to care for our spouses, our family, and our loved ones on today's program. And ladies and gentlemen, a lot goes into this. We're going to be talking about Social Security and pension decisions. We're going to be talking about how to replace missing income. We're going to talk about leaving that legacy in an optimal way, reducing and minimizing taxes, and so much more. Always important information coming your way. But if you've got questions, if you've got concerns about your money, about your investments, about your financial and retirement future, Chris McIntire is a resource for you. If you are within the sound of this radio signal, Chris is a local resource for you. You can speak with him personally. You can come in for a complimentary review, or you can conduct those virtually, always offering the opportunity for either. But to take advantage of the time for a complimentary forensic financial analysis and planning strategy session, all you need to do is pick up the phone and give a call. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, this really is a pretty critical consideration in the grand scheme of things. Looking at our money, looking at our finance, looking at our planning, it is a lot of providing stability, providing protection, providing support for ourselves and for others.
Yeah, there certainly is. If you look at some of these critical decisions that you have to make as you go into your retirement, and that may impact you, down the road. One of those would be, when do you take your Social Security benefit? Because that can have an impact on, if something happens to you, what you're going to leave to your spouse, for example. Should yours be the highest dollar amount that comes in, if your spouse has a reduced amount, if you pass away, they typically get what you're getting. There's some other caveats you have to throw in there if you were a retired school teacher and so on here in Ohio. So when you take that is a very important decision, because if you take it at 62, that may make the most sense when you're 62, but you have to try to look ahead here. Look, what about when I'm 82, for example? Is that the best decision I'm making? And, that carries right into the pension side of things as well. How much, if you're lucky enough to have a pension, how much do you want to leave a surviving spouse? Because the more you leave a surviving spouse, the less you get while you're alive, right? Because if you look at it from an actuarial standpoint, ensuring lifetime income for two people certainly takes more, there's a longevity factor there. So you get less money up front. But if you passed away, then your spouse might get 100% the same level of income that you're getting. And that's certainly relevant in today's inflationary environment, I would think, Peter.
Absolutely. And there's this perception that if a spouse passes away, that expenses will go down and income remains the same, when in actuality, oftentimes it's the exact opposite. Income drops pretty substantially and expenses generally stay about the same. And Chris, with these two systems, Social Security, and then if we are lucky enough to have a pension, these have lifetime implications. But unfortunately, we tend to be pretty short-sighted in nature in the way that we make financial decisions. I know sometimes it's hard to make certain decisions that will have implications toward the end of the month. These are systems where you make one decision and it is a lifetime decision that oftentimes has implications decades later. And so these are things that you have seen through in your career and in your experience. You have seen the implications of both fantastic and unfortunately poor decisions, and you can help lead people in the right direction, kind of crunch the numbers and do the math when making these decisions.
Yeah, we certainly can. And, I think it's fair to state on some of these pension things, so let's say I'm dealing with somebody who's a bachelor, for example, and he takes his pension based on, he's not married, so he can't leave a survivor benefit. So he takes his pension based on his life, but gets remarried, okay, after he retires, which is very common in today's world. That pension most likely is not going to go to him getting remarried. And so you have to factor in, look, it's one thing if I'm going into this married, it's another thing if I could potentially get married down the road. Just so throwing that out there for everybody.
Because those things happen.
Consider.
We see marriages later in life these days, and the decisions between what looks like the attractive number, the highest amount of income or a reduced amount of income, or even the lump sum. Chris, there are benefits and disadvantages to each one of these choices. There will be implications that we do need to understand. And unfortunately, too many times people just see that highest number and say, that's the one that I want. Or they take the lump sum. Is there one way that may be more advantageous than the other, or is it really a case-by-case kind of consideration?
Yeah, I treat it as a case-by-case consideration. It's hard to, throw blanket advice out there for everybody. It depends if, does your wife have a pension and Social Security from her working career? And, that's a lot different than, being married to kind of a stay-at-home mom, if you will, who raised the kids, took care of the household and all that. Not saying didn't work, for those of you that can't see the video here, that we're not saying the homemakers don't do anything. They work very, very hard, obviously, but they don't get all the benefits of working out in the real world from like a Social Security or pension standpoint. So, and then, do you want control of the money that you could take with your lump sum? And I would say in today's world now, Peter, with regard to people that work for the government, because their pensions are very healthy, often have a cost of living adjustment, but not always anymore, or they might have a freeze on them. But in the basic corporate world, most folks are doing lump sum rollovers, because they can go out and get their own annuity with a lifetime income on it. And it may have a cost of living adjustment or another mechanism to help increase the income as well. So not all of these, so you can still go out and buy your own lifetime income. The benefit to that is if you and your spouse were taken out on, in an unfortunate car accident, for example, whatever's left in your annuity that you did a pension rollover on, is going to pay out to your beneficiaries, where, oftentimes if you take it from the corporation you work for and you and your wife passed away in an unfortunate accident, that money just stops flowing. So I think people nowadays, they want more control of it.
Just because your company did not provide a pension doesn't mean that you can't have that kind of same financial security of a guaranteed lifetime income. And that's something that a lot of people don't No, they don't. They have never experienced that before. And that's why, Chris, we need to keep an open mind and stay educating ourselves, continue the learning process about our money, because there are options out there. And when faced with that decision on a pension, Chris McIntire can help you weigh the costs, the benefits, the advantages, the disadvantages, pros and cons, and make sure that you are making a well thought through decision with that, as well as Social Security. Many different combinations of choices and options for the timing and the strategies for claiming and collecting. And Chris McIntire can crunch those numbers and run a Social Security analysis as well as a pension analysis for you. Give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, you gave an example that I have unfortunately seen in real life. I was just talking with a buddy who had previously been married, and his wife was in that car accident, was actually struck by a drunk driver. She was a stay-at-home spouse. They had 2 young children at the time, and he said, I can't tell you the amount that the life insurance that we had in place on her was of value. And he wasn't talking about the monetary value. He was talking about the ability for him to go out and continue working, continue making a living, but replacing all of the expenses that stay-at-home spouse had been covering. So unfortunately, that is true. And maybe even more unfortunately, people often forget to cover that stay-at-home spouse. So again, if we're having a conversation about caring for our loved ones, important conversations, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Chris, with Social Security, where income can be decreased or disappear, with pensions, where unfortunately sometimes payouts and income can decrease or disappear altogether, is life insurance a good option to help replace some of that income?
It certainly can be, Peter. And I do like to utilize life insurance when it has a fit. There are many different types of life insurance out there. So, personally, I use life insurance as, kind of an investment vehicle as well, with the ability to add cash value to it and borrow against that, income tax free. Also, one of the most important aspects about more modern type life insurance policies is, hey, they may have a long-term care rider, so that if you went into a nursing home or needed in-home care, kind of say, you can't do some of the activities of daily living, and it can trigger benefits where with a life insurance policy, a lot of times that is, you are starting to accelerate the death benefit on a monthly basis for long-term care needs. So, you might not go into a nursing home, and a lot of people like myself, well, I don't want to buy long-term care insurance if I'm not going to use it, or potentially not going to use it and lose all the premium I put into it. At least with a life insurance policy, somebody's going to get the death benefit income tax free. And, a lot of cases, it's going to be your spouse, your children, grandchildren, or, in cases like my wife and I, we have included each other, and then obviously some charities as part of our estate planning as well.
Chris, you mentioned the at-home care. I think that more people, both themselves and for their spouse, would prefer that if they required any kind of assistance, that level of care be provided at home, if at all possible. And so that's a fantastic benefit, that we can stay together in the house where we're comfortable and get a little extra income to pay for whatever additional expenses would be required. We can do that through those life insurance vehicles these days.
Yeah, we certainly can. We do a fair amount of that at the office, Peter, because we've been, getting the message out to our clients to say, look, you have zero protection in case you went into a nursing home, and the bill for that could be $100,000 a year. For 5% of that dollar amount, we can take that risk off of the table. So why not spend 5 to save 100,000? Spend 5,000 to save 100,000. And then if you pass away, all right, hey, we're going to pay out a death benefit anyway.
Chris, on the day that we retire, we probably have the kids up and out and off of the payroll. Hopefully, maybe we've got the home paid off, if not mostly paid off. We've also amassed and built what could potentially be the largest amount of personal wealth that we have ever possessed. And I think that there is reason that people could say, hey, I no longer need life insurance. Is that maybe a little bit of an oversight? Because over what could be decades of retirement, that lump sum has the potential to be spent down, to be spent through. And I would like to provide my spouse, my family, the ability to sort of replenish that bucket and continue living a good quality of life.
Yeah, no question about it. I've yet to have any clients to hand the check back from a life insurance policy and say, no, let John Hancock keep it. We don't need it. So,
it also, to me, Chris, during our lifetimes would give me a little bit more confidence in the spending that we are doing, knowing that I have that in place.
Yeah. And as you and I are sitting right here right now, between the 4 life insurance policies that I have on myself, it's about $3 million of death benefit. And I'm 56 years old. And I had somebody I was meeting with the other day, they said, why do you have so much? And I said, I love my wife, plain and simple. Yep. I'm the one that earns the money, and if you want to think about it, yeah, that's a lot of life insurance. I've had some of the term insurance that was 14 years ago. It's going to expire at some point. So I replaced it as time goes on. And then I use a couple of policies for extra cash to put in there with long-term care benefits. So, right now where I stand, I can have, it's almost $16,000 a month if I went into a nursing home. That would accelerate from the payment of our life insurance policies. If I died, it's a big chunk of change, a combination term and whole life policies here. So, that's a lot for a lot of other people. I obviously run a business. We have office leases, some other things that, somebody that, works 9 to 5 in the corporate world might not deal with, but, they may, what is my Social Security benefit? So let's say it's $3,000 a month. $36,000 a year for 10 years. That's $360,000. Where are you going to make that up?
Right. Yeah. And in your situation, Chris, the business is involved, but I'm going to remove that for a moment and just say that in any marriage, there is some amount of business relationship there. There is a partnership there. And just like in any business, there are oftentimes certain people who handle certain roles. And this is another area where I think our money crosses over into caring for our loved ones, is that there are a lot of people who take pride in being the one that handles the money, being the one that handles the finances. I'll take that responsibility on. But in actuality, we're probably not doing our spouse or our family, our children, our loved ones any favor if we leave them completely in the dark about what's going on with the money.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, still in today's world, we see it where one of the spouses is dominant with the finances. And I don't know if I'd always say it's the male, but that's traditionally what it has been. And we're seeing, obviously, there's more women in the marketplace and they have a much better understanding and their own savings as they've been working. But, if we go back to like my grandparents and even my parents who are in their upper 80s, my dad really runs the money in the household, and it probably drives my mom crazy. But, some people say, look, I don't like this stuff. I don't want to deal with it. I don't even want to know what's going on. The other spouse takes care of all of that. And at some point that may change in a heartbeat, actually.
Yeah. And in which case, Chris, it's probably all that much more important to have a relationship with a trusted advisor, somebody who is familiar with the situation that can help make any kind of big decisions or transfers that need to happen, and understands the intricacies, the workings of what's going on with the money. That is going to be important, ladies and gentlemen. And today we're bringing up a number of very important issues about your money, about your finances, and how we use our money to provide protection, stability, comfort, and confidence to our loved ones. And if you'd like to take a look at your plan, review that plan, make sure you have a plan that everybody has a good understanding of what's going on, give Chris McIntire a call at McIntire Retirement Services, 800-868-1194. He does offer a complimentary planning review and strategy session. You can review your current plan, get it up to date. If you don't have a plan, you can get one put together and in writing. You can go as in-depth as you like, a detailed forensic financial analysis, looking at the risks that you're taking, the fees that you're paying, the taxes that you may be liable for, or you can just make sure that every kind of foundational piece is taken care of and in place so that you've got a good foundation for your confidence and financial future. Give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. In that partnership, Chris, I'm sure you deal with couples that sometimes have a difference of opinion on their comfort level with the market and the risk and the risk that they want to take.
Yeah, no question about it. Somebody is more aggressive, and then the other one is usually more conservative. And, not necessarily the husband is more aggressive. It can certainly be the wife who has a higher risk tolerance, but understanding that and understanding both of their characteristics. I've got, a particular client, his wife is very conservative. We keep her very conservatively invested, and she has her own nest egg. And then the husband likes it, he likes to look for the next opportunity or swing for a double or a triple, if you will. Home runs are incredibly hard to hit, so we don't even swing for home runs much at our office. But, we have to design our portfolios around their individual risk tolerances. And, as we've seen in the month of January, an incredible amount of volatility that, between the inflation, the supply chain issue, the COVID, obviously, throwing wrenches in everything. It's sometimes a gut check for a lot of investors as well. But, you come out on the other side and, the markets will, I don't know if I want to use the word rationalize, but they get back on their way again. Markets don't always go up. They can have a bad month. They can have a bad quarter. They can have a bad year, like in 2018. We had stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, lots of things lost money into 2018. That was the last time they raised interest rates. So, I suppose you could probably make a rationale. Why would 22 be any different?
Yeah, we've already seen the Fed announce that they intend at least 3 interest rate increases, rate hikes this year. And as we began the year, Chris, we certainly saw some jitters in the market. I mean, we all love when the market goes up. We all get nervous when the market goes down. But if we got the plan in place long term, Chris, our outcome should not be dependent on the direction of the market day to day. We should have only the exposure that we know that is prudent and appropriate and that we are comfortable with. And again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people are out of alignment there. They are maybe a little bit more conservative minded than they were 10 or 15 years ago. However, the market has grown at a fantastic rate. So you're probably positioned more aggressively than you were 5, 10, or 15 years ago if you've got money in the market that you've seen some gains on. And that's another area where we need to get things back into alignment and update the plan on a regular basis. Chris McIntire can help you with that. Pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, I've heard and read a lot actually about 2 great wealth transfers that are basically in the works, that are preparing to happen. One is that more women will hold more wealth than ever before, and actually more than men on a grand scale for the first time ever. And then passing generationally from the baby boomer generation to their children, another pretty large wealth transfer about to happen. It's one thing to prepare the money to transfer. It's a whole nother thing to prepare the people for the money. And I think that we need to have our accounts set up, our affairs in order, the documents in place. But this is about conversations. This is about talking about money with our family and sort of preparing them to continue the values that we held that allowed us to build the wealth.
Correct. And, if you run into a situation like we spoke about earlier, where, maybe the husband runs all the finances in the household, or at least the investment side, I'll sometimes have a conversation. It's like, look, do you know what's going to happen if something happened to Mr. Jones here? And the missus would be like, well, I think I just take our will to the lawyer. I'm like, nope, that may be true. You may have some assets that are going to have to go through the attorney there, but your retirement accounts are going to follow the beneficiary designation. You'll have to update those documents. And as time goes on, you have to update powers of attorney and find, wills and whatnot. Once you lose a spouse, you want those things to be very current. And so a lot of changes happen when somebody passes away as you're planning this legacy transfer, and if you lost a spouse, is it time to do something with your home? Do you sit with the attorney and say, look, I want to stay here forever, but I don't want it to go to the nursing home? And then they may make their recommendations on putting assets into different types of trusts and whatnot. So your accountant may make some recommendations as far as, gifting assets to children as well. And so, you need to have a team in place here, especially the more money you have, the advisor, the accountant, the attorney side of things, and somebody's got to quarterback all of that. And it is a lot of work. That's basically what we do. And if you have never done anything like that, it can certainly be an overwhelming process. So, I have a lot of the male clients, I'll say that, they'll say, look, here's what we need to make sure happens if something happens to me, and we may have those conversations when the wife isn't there, or it might be an email that say, hey, put this in the file, would you? I want you to know this, this is what we need to be worried about with her. And, here's the child I want you to contact first if something happens. Somebody's got to be the point person. I think we probably have a niche in that.
Well, Chris, running through just a quick list of being ready for these things and providing the utmost amount of care for our family from a financial perspective, a few of the things that are important, maybe not a comprehensive all-inclusive list, but certainly things that we need to have done or have addressed. A little bit of pre-planning, having a plan in place. That certainly is going to be important. Understanding the budget, expenses, and income, and making sure that those things, we know where dollars are coming and going.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to know where the bills are coming in or what gets paid electronically, what gets deducted out of the bank account. When does it get deducted out of the bank account?
Online access, the passwords these days.
Yep. And how do you close out email accounts, for example, for somebody that's passed away? What are the, you have to contact Social Security, of course, provide some death certificates. You have to contact the pension company because you don't want them sending 18 more pension payments. And then all of a sudden you got to refund some of that. Same thing with Social Security. And then, finding the life insurance policies, because I run into a lot of people that say, yeah, I think we had a couple of those small policies back when my parents were alive. They gave us, I don't even know what I did with them. I'm like, well, I can guarantee you your kids don't know what you did with them either.
Yeah, I remember my wife's family, Chris, when her grandfather passed, basically they were waiting around for the life insurance bill to show up in the mail. They waited almost a year and found another one that they didn't know was out there.
Yep. And, we're the power of attorney for a dear friend of ours who dealt with a tragedy. A husband passed away and then a cognitive issue took over. And, we found some keys that said safety deposit box keys, but it didn't say to what bank. So we went through all the banks and still have yet to find that.
Wow. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, you need to have a plan. You need to have the conversations, certain things you need to have in writing and documented, and you need to have it in a place where people know where it's at and how to get to it. These are all part of the caring for your loved ones conversation when it comes to money. Money maybe not being the most important thing. It's what's important to us and the values that the money allows us the ability to support and carry on. And having those kind of conversations with your family is important. Having that resource of an advisor that can bring everybody together and can make sure the plan is going to work through all different phases of life is important as well. That's why Chris McIntire is here. And if you would like to have a conversation, if you'd like to sit down down and get a financial review and analysis. If you're worried about where the market is, market volatility, the risks that you are taking, the fees that you are paying, the taxes that you may be liable for, how to make sure that you know you have enough and you've got the confidence to spend throughout your lifetime. Those are the types of plans that Chris can help you put together. All you need to do is take the first step. Pick up the phone, give a call now. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, a great conversation about what I think is really important with your money, the care that we can provide, the support, the confidence that we can provide for our loved ones. Any final thoughts as we close out the program today?
You make sure you take care of your loose ends, folks, because they will not take care of themselves.
Always great advice, guidance, and perspective with Chris McIntire here on Your Game Plan for Retirement. Again, he does offer the opportunity to speak with him personally about your plan, about your situation. Make sure you're doing the right things with your money. Pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. And we'll talk to you next time on Your Game Plan for Retirement.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.